individually, but anything you say can and will be held against you from this point forward. I just want to make sure they all get off. Yeah. Plus, I just did this show with this powerful couple, The Powers of Love, and I got super downloaded. Huh. Well,
I can keep track of it.
I know, man. I just got like wiped. I had to go lay down. One of them's not going through. That's okay. It's a small group that we just started sharing in. All right. We got the welcome to the live and the replay. We got the beautiful Michele Zina is in the house, who I've met personally and is more beautiful in person than she is now. She's very beautiful now, as you can tell. We've had her son on here, her husband, her partner, and they just carry good energy, man. They're a 5D family, and it's a pleasure to have her on here and share space with her. We are going to play the intro real quick for 1 minute and 19 seconds, and we'll be right back. Sorry about that. I'm still a little bit off planet. I want to just give a shout out to our friends at Radiance magazine, who are co-creators and collaborators. Scott Ware and that bunch over there. We've been doing a little marketing and also he featured Morgan Lee. We just got these in. He featured Morgan Lee, one of Morgan Lee's posts. I can't find it. But I just want to say, there it is. I took that picture. She's very hot.
Cool. Well, I mean, I saw an interview she did a week ago. That was pretty hot.
Yeah, that was hot, man. Let me tell you, that was very hot. It got my hormones going, no doubt. Yeah, so I just wanted to say hi to my friends at Radiance Magazine. They've been kind enough to collaborate with us, and we're in early talks of doing something like this with the Soulology name. So I'm excited about that. And I'm excited about what's coming. We haven't talked in a while. We were in a conference in Florida.
That was Sarasota or
Yes.
near Lido Beach.
Lido Beach, yeah. Lido Beach, Sarasota, Rest in Power, Jessica Sanchez.
Yeah.
And so we met there, met your partner. Then we did a show. Of course, we knew Garen. Then we met Garen, and
we did this.
Yeah, we did that. Yeah, that's good stuff. That works very well in these current mixed energies. But it's been quite. Of course, then after we met in at the conference, at the Waves of Light conference, we had a COVID announcement, a program, whatever you want to call it, a mask, quarantines, 6 foot apart, a lot of self-introspection, a lot of people spending time with family members that they hadn't really got to know after many, many years because everybody was doing their own thing, patterns, behaviors, schedules, jobs, common practices either totally stopped or altered dramatically, such as picking up your what you buy over at Best Buy at the curb instead of being able to go inside, all these different things. And I know you've gone through some things too. You know, our friend Jessica transitioned, your father transitioned, 9-9. And there has been a lot of that too. There's been a lot of people transitioning. Man, where are you at with this? How you feeling? What's going on? You look pretty serious today. You got something to say, don't you?
Well,
That's okay. We love the
that's
animals.
my little guy, Druid.
Yeah.
Let me just
Druid.
Sorry.
He can come on if he wants to.
Now he's going to be stuck out.
Oh, he's being punished.
Yeah, he's chasing the other dog. Well, yeah, it's funny about Jessica. I got a message for her and I sent it to her right before she went in. Actually, when she just announced that she was going into the hospital, I got like a message for her and I sent it to her. So I was glad I was able to get that out to her.
What's
But
that? You were
I
able
got
to.
a message for Jessica before
I got
when
that.
she first went into the hospital, when she first announced that she was going into the hospital. And that was interesting. It was that she was growing her own angel wings. And yeah, and it was, I could see it. I could visually see her growing these big, humongous wings. And anyways, I thought that was kind of cool, especially since she ended up passing. It's like, well, she's got these angel wings now. Anyways.
So you got the angel wings when you found out she was going to the hospital.
Yeah.
Did you have it? Did you get any kind of feeling that she was going to transition, or you just passed that on?
I didn't have any feeling that she was going to transition. I just passed it on. But I will say that regarding my own father,
Yeah,
and we were super close. I got a lot of, sorry, my voice might end up cracking lots of times just because even though I look serious now,
you mean cracking from humor or cracking from?
No, cracking from,
yeah.
I'm still trying to control my, not control, but it was very difficult for me losing my dad.
Yeah.
But I did get lots of messages that he was on his way out.
Wow.
But I didn't believe it. I don't think I wanted to believe it. So, but it was super helpful that I did get the messages, because it made it that the last year I was a lot more present and available, and just, we made the most.
Yeah. So you got a heads up, which is cool. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And it's tricky too, because God, I can count. I mean, probably at least a dozen people, probably more, that I've known fairly well that have transitioned, and all ages too. Like, I had a friend from back home, and he couldn't have been 30.
Wow.
And so, like, what I was getting at, and you would have a better perspective because it's hit you closer. So we're going through this transition, and we're expanding our awareness and actualizing our information. We're having this physical, mental, emotional, spiritual transformation that's cellular and atomic and somatic and muscular and everything. And then somebody said today, it's like we're walking in two worlds. So then you have something like that happen. And of course, the idea of death has been a big part of this transition we call ascension, because what it's not, basically. And how do we actually move into that field where it's not a part of our existence, when it's been a part of our existence and the basis of fear-based programming? So what does that all mean? Well, to me, it's like, what happened to Michele and people like Michele when you're split? Because you had to have been split, I would think.
Really was. It's such a perfect representation. I mean, it's like, I know that he's not there physically, but at the same time, I know that he's there.
Yeah. Yeah. And so have you, because I had, like, when I first reawoke, it was about a 2-year period. I had, like, I think it was 9 people passed that were like family, stepmother, stepfather, brother-in-law, friend, uncle. I mean, they just went boom, 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 boom. And I remember having, I remember having dimensional episodes with at least 2 or 3 of them, visitations, whatever you want to call it. But I also remember the ones that I tried to reach for that I couldn't connect with.
Oh,
And I always thought that was strange. You know, I always thought that was kind of weird. Some would pop in. I wouldn't even have to say anything. Some I would think about them and they'd pop in, and others I couldn't connect. I don't know. Have you been able to connect, or have you tried?
lots of times. I'm so glad. I mean, even the first night, I was able to connect. I should say, I don't recall if the first night I did. I don't recall that, but I know I keep notes of all this stuff. But the very next morning I did, and I started. Actually, the first thing I got was a song from Kenny Rogers, The Gambler. And when I played it, I had heard the song, but I didn't remember it. And when I played it, one of the lines in it said, "The best thing you could hope for is to die in your sleep," which is what my dad did.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was really comforting. And yeah, I haven't had it where I've wanted to get messages from deceased loved ones, because I haven't had that many, thankfully. But that have transitioned on like that. But yeah, regarding my dad, I've been able to anytime I tried, I can get a message from him. I can connect.
But you've had that. You've kind of had a gift most of your life too, haven't you? I mean, you've been able to pierce the veil or see through to the other side, or you've had some type of, if I remember correctly, you've had some type of sensitivity or high sensitivity.
I've definitely been, sensitive my whole life. I've had precognition. I've had prophetic dreams. I had my awakening experience about 14 years ago in Kauai, and that was really intense. And I had a bit of a Kundalini awakening, although it wasn't super intense. So I think it might have been partial. I don't know how that works, but and lots and lots of daily meditation for like 14 years now. And but I have been receiving messages for a long time. My really weird obstacle was that I was in denial that I was getting it for a long time.
Yeah, I think that's a good subject too, because I know, like, when I reawoke in 2011, and I had apparitions that weren't third eye. I had third eye, but I also had physical, apparitions. So, and other things that you would just go, wow, that's something else. But I couldn't embrace or whatever, own what I was getting here. Like I would write about it and I would talk about it, but there was still a part of me that was going, "Are you crazy?" And I think a lot of people go through that, but the intuitive conversation, if you will, that's the real deal. And I think now, if I look back now, it's 2020. I look back over the last 8-9 years, and I've watched the whole evolution of the community and myself. It's becoming more and more followed than the template that we had prior, which was the ego mind and the rational and the normal, typical, acceptable thoughts in our head were what we pursued or what led our life. It's changing a little bit.
Yeah. I've seen apparitions in daylight. I've definitely had a lot of those experiences, and for me, it was like I've been getting messages really clear for like the last maybe 6 years, but it really kind of amped up maybe just a little bit more than 5 years ago. And even still, I was in denial that I was getting I was actually seeking messages. Like I really wanted to connect that way, and I didn't. I didn't recognize that all of these messages I were getting was the very thing that I was wanting. And it wasn't until about 2.5 years ago or less that it was like, okay, Michele, write down these messages, which I kept on hearing that. It was about the third time. So once I started writing down the messages, it opened up the floodgates.
Yeah.
And even then I was still in denial. It's the weirdest thing. It was like the denial was intense. And then finally, when I realized, wait a minute, this is what I've been looking for. I think it was even Jeremy from Waves of Light, who said to me, "Oh, you're getting automatic writing." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, that's automatic writing." Wake up, like stop being in denial.
Yeah. Well, it's so subtle though. And the reason I'm bringing it up because it's happening to so many people now. You know, so many people are waking up and it comes in so many different forms. But there seems to be like a subtle, unless it's somebody, at least in my experience, well, that's not even true. I was going to say many of the people that I have met that have had a consistent discipline of connection, they seem to have, like Morgan and a couple other people I've met, as soon as they lay down, boom, they're there. Where it used to take longer. Now it doesn't take me as long as it used to, but I'm not like that. But there's so many different ways that the line of communication takes place because the human's still involved. So yeah, you can have picture fly off the wall. You know, you can have, you know, stuff that does. Have you ever had it where like you're messaging somebody or talking to somebody, and literally, I guess what the universe, God, goddess, starts talking to you?
Oh yeah.
And they don't even know that they're doing it, right? I mean, like, now I've had Morgan, like when I first met her, the mother goddess came into her, and I watched her physiology change. I watched it, and it was real because I'd had a little experience with that. And she knew, like she may not have remembered everything that was said, but she pretty much knew what happened. But I've had other people do it where they weren't even aware they said anything to me. Has that ever happened to you?
You're talking about like the person that I'm speaking with isn't aware?
Yeah, like you're speaking to somebody, you're having a conversation, or you might think something. That's really how it works. I would think something, or I'd be thinking something, and then they would speak as if they were in the conversation in my head, but it was.
I see what you're saying. Oh yeah. I've been noticing that more and more. I think with me, what I get is it is very subtle. And that's the reason for the denial. You're so right.
Yeah.
Because it's so subtle that you think it's, in fact, I've been teaching a class on this. And in fact, I'm really glad that you just said it that way, because I feel like you just made it even more clear to me.
Yeah.
It's so subtle that you just think it's you. And I've been telling different people that I've been sharing this stuff with that it's like, stop taking credit for it. We think it's us, but it's not. I mean,
right. That's right.
It's part of us, but you know, yeah.
Well, and it makes it kind of challenging too, because, so the universe has so many faces, and ultimately they're all the same consciousness. So Archangel Michael or Magdalene or Kuan Yin or Saint Germain or whatever. But to your point, you know, I remember too when I first reawoke, and I had 7 or 8 months of daily stuff happening. I mean, stuff that you couldn't explain, and I still was in denial. And so there were some big things that happened, like big physical experiences that I couldn't deny. You know, like absolutely couldn't deny. Like, and even then, it took a glass of warm tea on a nightstand next to me, and I asked a question, and it blew up. You know, it blew up, and all over my lap there was glass and tea, and you know.
Wow.
And so and what I'm saying is that it's a subtlety. I don't know if we can even describe it, but it's a subtlety that even with pronounced occurrences, you can still have trouble. I don't know if we're denying it or if we're just not able to accept it because of our conditionings run so deep.
I think it might be the latter. I really feel like it's the latter, what you just said, or at least for me it was.
Yeah.
I think the conditioning runs so deep, and yeah, totally.
Yeah, I picture like a say like a well, and the well totally clear is the channel, but over the years there's a bunch of dirt and mud that's got in there, right? So like say there's 10 feet of that. So because we still have that going on, even a very pronounced experience uh, can't be fully felt because we have the stuff that we all know we're clearing out. I mean, that's how it is to me, because I even look back at some of these what you might call divine episodes with these physicality to it, and I still walked away. It's
It,
3 days later going, am I crazy?
that's exactly how it was for me. It was like I mean, the first time that I saw like what you called an apparition in the daytime, this was like 10 plus years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And here I am still in denial. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm past that, fortunately, but not that long ago. I think it was only like less than 6 months ago that I finally kind of woke up from that denial.
Yeah.
Even
Yeah, I
though
think,
I've been getting messages on a daily basis for 5 years.
yeah, that's a good point. And I don't know if it's rampant, but that's how my story's gone. Like even with Morgan and even all the miracles and all the reciprocation from the universe for an understanding, it's what you put out, just keep putting it out, and I'm going, okay, but how are we going to pay rent, and how are we going to do this, and how's that going to work? And they just put it out, just put it out. So even with that understanding and that experience and validation, it was probably this summer, probably June, when I really said, you know what? We've been doing this. Like, this is really happening. Like, this is not going to go away. The shoe's not going to drop. And then the other thing that happened was about a week ago, this is so funny how all this happens and you remember things and it all fits. But I went for a ride after a long day of broadcasting, and I was coming back, and they popped in, whatever they is, right? It's me, it's you, it's whatever it is. They popped in and they said, hey, they talk about how the Illuminati or the 1% or the Cabal or whoever these people are or whatever have passed on this information, this is esoteric knowledge, as well as the strategy that will take place over generations. You know what I mean? That they've passed it on to their heirs and to their collaborators. And they showed me how that was a finite proposition because it was based in duality. They're secreting knowledge away from us. They have a secret plan, whatever. But what I was told was, they said, what you guys are about to start to understand is you've done the same thing. And your stream is an infinite stream. So like the understanding or awareness that I was a star seed and you're a star seed and this and that and all this stuff, and that we've actually come through a series of incarnations with an objective, which is in this time, in this place. And almost like, you know what to do, time to walk the talk. And a big part of it was, and don't worry, you can talk about it like this, but they're all going to get it. You're all starting to get it, or enough of you are starting to get it. It's so hard to try to, verbatim explain these things because they don't come in words. I don't know about yours.
Oh, totally. The words are just never quite adequate because we don't have the right words. And to your point, it's like for everybody, it's a little bit different. But I've definitely been seeing that, more and more people are. There goes my dog again. More and more people are like waking up or just really interested in, trying to seek whatever it is that they feel is inside of them that's wanting to come out.
Yeah. It's really interesting. It really, really is. And actually, this whole thing with the quarantine and the COVID and the mask and the whatever. I mean, I woke up today and somebody sent me a note, or last night I was talking to a friend of mine. He's like, half the country is going to be locked down to Monday. And I'm like, what? I ain't heard that. It's not in my field, But anyway, what I was saying is this whole thing that looks like an antagonistic energy or whatever, a controlling energy, has actually supported us, in our internal expansion, because less distractions, more introspection.
That's true. Yeah.
So even people that may say, I hate to even talk like this, but say even people that aren't consciously pursuing whatever spirituality or whatever, they're still in the same boat. It's kind of a collective thing that's Nobody's getting away from it.
Yeah. And what you said earlier too about, we've all in some way participated with I think that's kind of important to acknowledge, because none of us, the only time we're really innocent in this game is when we're newly born.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's true, but this is so tricky. So, but we're always, even now, even after we got conditioned, innocence. The innocence has never left us. That's as pure as, innocence, childlike wonder, unconditional love. All those things are, and so it becomes this thing where, and I just went through this 2 days ago. It becomes this thing of it's already there. Why do you think you don't have it? It's already there. And I was actually communing in regard to Soulology, because we just opened the website after a long time, after 9 years, and I went to go test broadcasting nonstop, right? And pushing a button, and it plays and plays and plays, and you're breaking with lives and such, and it blew up twice. And in that moment, I realized we're going to have to get a tower, and it's going to be $3,000, and I got 200, and how's that going to happen? So I went into, communion, and I said, how do I do this? I feel like I want to ask you without asking you. And they're like, yeah, hello, you already
That's
have.
what we're here for.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, and and they've always encouraged to ask, but when I said that word, I said, I feel like I need to ask you without asking, and they said, hello, bingo, that's it, it's already there. So what I found interesting about that, what you're saying, is that innocence and that childlike wonder and that pure love and all that, it's pretty easy for me to go, oh, it's there. I can be that. I am that. That's kind of easy. Where the other one, which has a material form, I'm going, okay, but I got it in that message 2 days ago, and I thought, okay, so it's already there. Now I'm going to look for ways to physicalize it, which I don't know what that looks like.
Because, good luck on that, on the whole tower thing. Has anything?
Have I had luck?
Yeah, I mean, have you moved forward with any of that?
Well, what happened was some other stuff came in prior to that, because I didn't know that was going to happen. Like, I had done research on it 2-3 years ago. I thought, when we get to this point, we'll do that. But everything had been going so smooth. I thought, well, it just didn't enter my mind. 3 or 4 or 5 days before that, I got these messages in. I'm on open book, so I think it would have been 2018 summer. I took out the first of 3 loans to keep us sustained. And then I paid off the fastest rate I could. I took 3 of them out, over $25,000. That's how Soulology survived.
Wow.
And so when I got through paying the last one was, I think, February. and because I'd done it so fast, they kept raising my limit, right? So around February, right when COVID went down, March, April, I paid it the last one off, which was took me 13 months. And I kind of heard, because like you said, they don't come in clear. It's just kind of like sound bites. And I heard, don't take another one out. Now I thought that meant don't ever take another one out. Like, you can't participate in 3D constructs such as debt, because it doesn't exist, and you can't, you've got to walk the talk. So then a few days before this happened, what I'm telling you about, it popped in my field. I don't know if the intel was you need to get a loan, or you need to manifest some capital, but that went on for 3 or 4 days, and it had me kind of going, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's interesting. And then the thing went down with the equipment. So now I'm in this space of trying to find the thread to that. It's like a fishing pole. Like, if I can find the pure love that I already am, it's all there. Everything is there. So I don't know. That's just a little personal insight. And if it's happening to me, it's got to be happening to other people.
Oh yeah.
It has to be.
You know, it's funny when toward early on with COVID, and I was a little, I don't, I mean, I was, a little uncomfortable where we were heading then. I'm not so uncomfortable now. And now I
Yeah.
just kind of, I'm more at a sort of surrender phase. But early on, one day I just went for a bike ride in my neighborhood, and I did something unusual. I started riding up the curbs, doing bunny hops, and just acting like a little kid used to when I was like 10.
Yeah.
Uh, I was shocked with how enlivening it was.
Yeah.
I was so shocked with how good it made me feel to just disrupt the pattern that I was, that Michele was. I just totally disrupted the pattern. And then the next day I was like, oh, I'm kind of back to Michele. And I thought, I'm going to go for a bike ride and do the same thing, go up the curbs and sing out loud and not care if anybody's hearing me. And a lot of times I'm blasting Soulology stuff on my phone when I'm zooming around. And it brought me back to that part of me, that innocent part of me that since then I've been doing it every day. Like every day I hop on my bike and I go, and it feels so good to just get back to that part of me that isn't the part of me that's the linear part, the part of me that has to go to work, but it feels so good. And I feel like that part of me at this point in the game, I want to bring more forward,
Yeah. What a great, what a great experience serving as a metaphor. Um, you know, Embodying, like that's become a really big awareness that none of that means anything until we embody it into this experience, because the human's not going anywhere. In fact, the human is the vehicle. The human is the Merkabah. The human is
the technology,
is the soul. Yeah, it's everything. It's all that stuff. So I know I'm a big kid. I love to play around. It drives Morgan crazy sometimes because she's like, "Oh, I'm watching you on the screen, and she likes when I wear black shirts. 'Cause I like black shirts. She'll be like, "Oh my God, you look so handsome," and da 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 da. That's the man I'm in love with. And she makes a joke. She doesn't mean it, but then I'll come out and I'll come off the camera, and I'll run upstairs, and I'll be like playing like a little kid, acting goofy. It's I've always done that. Like, I can't be this serious all the time. You know what I mean? And I guess what I'm saying is that part to me is like central to embodiment. So you on the bicycle, and anyone that's listening to this can remember what she's talking about. Going up the curbs as where the driveway comes out, and you get that little wheelie going. The singing out loud when you're a kid, and you don't care who's listening because you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
I think that's a powerful thing. That's
Yeah.
a very, very powerful thing.
It felt to me like it reset me. Like anytime I want to go back to that kind of centered in the moment place, in the moment, right? All I have to do now is just go hop on my bike, because maybe that symbolizes me making the effort to go there. And it feels really good. It's almost like it doesn't matter what stresses I'm going through at that moment. It raises my vibe up enough that I'm able to, recenter back on Michele. And I'm no longer like, I'm not the Michele that's focusing on the COVID or other things.
Yeah. If you think about it, so what does a child bring to the table? What did we have that we didn't have so much later in life when we were children? Presence. So like I can see you on the bike, all the wheels are going here until you get the other wheels going. And when you're in that, and if you're doing that, it'd be different if you're riding down the bike just like you're taking a walk and you're still got the wheels spinning.
Yeah.
But to actually enjoy the nature of childlike qualities, I mean, that's a powerful meditation. That's a powerful means of grounding as I listen to you.
It's funny that you said that, because that's that exact word. It feels grounding to me.
Yeah.
Like I've always been kind of a little on the floaty side, ungrounded. And since I've been doing that, I feel probably more grounded than I ever have.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes a lot of sense. I'm sitting here trying to think what do I actually, what do I actually do? I now need to go get a bicycle. or something. But I don't know what it is. To me, I guess I can get it like when I'm sitting in this chair, because I do play around here too, and if I talk to someone privately, I'm usually, full shit and just, joking around. But I remember the night that I reawoke, and I was in my backyard. It was 1:11 in the morning, and this big ball of light came through the trees, and the next thing I know, Jesus' face is there, and he was laughing. And I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "I've been standing over your family for 2.5 years, and 2.5 years prior, there'd been a major trauma suicide attempt by somebody in the family." Uh, and so I looked back at him, and he was laughing harder. And I remember thinking to myself, he's laughing at me like a parent would laugh at a child who takes something too seriously.
Like
And
in
then, yeah, you know what I mean? And so in that moment, I was like, something and I literally, a wave went through my body, but something or some things entered or re-entered or reopened in my body. And one of the things that happened to me, I always have been childlike, like Peter Pan and all that, up until about 10 years before that incident, up until 40 years old. And from about that point, the stress and life and the matrix and everything got so cumbersome, I stopped laughing. I literally didn't laugh for 10 years.
Yeah. Wow.
So that night, something happened to me. And then I went on the streets and, for a couple of years, and there was so much intensity, but slowly but surely, I was got to the point where I was able to laugh in the worst circumstances. Be I in a park bench, be I in a jail cell, be I, in a fight, be whatever. I was able to actually look at it, and it was because of that moment. And I guess from that point on, what I'm trying to say is that one thing about this childlike qualities is that you don't take things so seriously.
I definitely haven't been taking things as seriously, but the messages I've been getting have been in many ways asking me to take things less seriously. So I'm following instructions.
Yeah. Somebody wrote, Jane Whitehouse wrote, it reminds me of a holy man I used to follow. He said sometimes he has to ride the shopping trolley in the supermarket. I do that all the time. Morgan doesn't, like, we'll come out of the grocery store and I'll get the speed up and then jump on it and ride it. She quickly runs the other way. but yeah, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about. Thanks, Jane. And yeah, we've just carried. It's like everybody had their shoulders, constricted. Everybody uptight. I mean, we and talk about subtle. Have you experienced? Because I've noticed this in my body. I had chronic back pain for 12 years, up until about 44, 46, maybe. So this all happened for me at 49. And I did a lot of dancing, did a lot of walking. So it kind of rehabilitated my lower back a little bit. There was a lot of muscle atrophy. But anyway, what I'm getting at is I've noticed this year that the pains are disappearing. They're literally disappearing. I'm able to do some things that I wasn't quite, or I had to be careful, or if I did do something, it would tweak my back. And that's just one example. But it's like something's going on. Like the physical is matching the energetic expansion or growth.
That's you're so lucky. I personally, I'm not one of these warriors that has all kinds of physical battle scars. I don't have pain for the most part, so I can't agree with that at all. I mean, I don't have any experience with it.
You don't have anything to
course, everybody goes through issues and different things like that.
Yeah.
Menstrual pain, pain, all kinds of different things. Yeah, but yeah.
Well, I wonder too, because it's like, I know, like, okay, so speaking of some Morgan, in the way that she works, she decided that she was going to reprogram menopause. And so she went into the morphic field and worked with that energy, and she's not had any symptoms.
Oh,
Her,
wow.
her friends are all over the place, but she's never had any. My point is that I'm kind of describing the same trajectory of energetic growth, but mine's not conscious. At least it's not conscious like I'm going to go do that specifically. I'm going to get rid of this lower back pain specifically.
Right. Not deliberate.
Yeah, it's just like, and I guess what I'm saying is, it's like when we clear something, it's not just that's clearing. When we raise our frequency, and if we look at it as a specific aspect of us or of our experience, it's really a lot bigger than that. Energy is energy. And so maybe, like in your case, you're clear. You've not even gone there. It's not even in your field.
Oh, I'd like to think that. I sure hope so. I'll take that. But I do know, I know that I've done tons of work for the last 2+ years, as long as I've been writing down the messages. Because of the fact that I've been writing them down or recording them, I have like a log where I can see my progress, or even see how things used to be,
Yeah.
Many layers have been peeled to get to the point where I'm at right now, peeled away.
Yeah, I think that that's another thing that we can look at, because it used to be because of the subtlety. Did that happen? Or you forget it happened. I used to get that one 3 or 4 years ago. It'd be like I'd get into a spot or a place and I'm in the middle of nowhere. I got my suitcase. I got no money. Where am I going to go? What's going to happen? And I would get into victim consciousness, I guess would be what you'd call it. And I'd hear, do you remember all these things that happened to you? Do you remember? Let us show these to you. You see them all? You see how they all line up into one big column of light? That's who you are. Now, do you have anything to bitch about now? I'm like, no, I guess not. And then a miracle would come out of nowhere, right? So, but what I'm getting at is I think there's more support, there's more awareness now, and that really contributes to us being able to go back to those grounding moments and reaffirm that we are much more than we thought we were, and all the things that we've learned. And you're right, you can see the growth, dramatic growth. I can't even in January when we met, I'm nowhere near the same. In fact, every month has been a year. I feel like probably more than that. Every month has been like 10 years. I mean, I feel like that much experience, that much integration of, let's say, sacred wisdom and experience has integrated. I mean, it's just been a shift show. One after the other.
For me too. I feel like things have either, it's like, well, they've been amping up for a while, but it seems like 2020 just, is like the quantum leap year, at least. I don't know if it's like that for everybody, but for me, it certainly feels that way.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's no doubt.
Only in the positive. I don't mean that it's just growth forward. I mean, it's also has a lot of difficulty with it, but the difficulty is part of it. The difficulty is what, pushes you over. Maybe it pushes you out of the denial, or it pushes you to remember that, things aren't as bad as they can be, or, things like that. Or the difficulty often reveals things within yourself. It's part of that peeling away process.
Yeah. And regardless of what's happened, now this has been gradual. You said yours kicked back up about 5 years ago, but I came off the streets summer of 2013. So what would that be? 6.5 years ago. And the reason I say that is because that's when I started to interact, because I had a computer then, and I could start talking to people and joining groups and all that. But what I was going to say is that, like, say 2015 or 2016 or 2017, you'd have 2 steps up and 1 back. You'd have 5 steps up and the shoe would drop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then it seemed like it got a little bit easier, but slowly, steadily, deliberately, just this snail pace. And that's one thing I do notice as we get into the tail end of the year. Even given the presented, what's presented on the global stage, or what ties us all together, COVID, quarantine, whatever, election, whatever. Even given the chaos and the extremities in that spectrum, there's a lot of proof out there of individuals, couples, small groups, swimming in this expansive energy field, creating pure product, pure services, pure expressions, like fairy tales. And to me, there's not an air of the shoe's going to drop. To me, it feels like, even given all that, even on an individual level, like you were talking about, the things that aren't always so easy, there's just been a consistent expansion that's getting more and more frequent and sustainable.
Absolutely. I don't have any kind of feeling like I'm concerned where we're heading.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's just part of might just be part of that sort of surrender stage that I'm at right now, where I'm just accepting things the way they are, the way they're coming, while at the same time doing the inner work and doing my daily practice, meditation and scribing messages every night. And
And where do you share these messages, or somebody?
I have been starting to. I really want to. I really want to. And I have started to. I think I'm a little bit, I'm not really shy, but I'm camera shy. And because of the denial for years, it's like I didn't talk about this part of my life for a long time. And I really want to now. I know that for example, I get messages every night from Collective Consciousness, which is a collective that first came to me like 14 years ago, but I didn't even recognize that they came to me. Although I knew that they're like, okay, go register a domain. And I did. So I was thinking that those thoughts were mine. So I know that I do want to, share the messages. I have started. I've been sort of like molasses in getting it going.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that back up again. The part about it's not us. I remember after those couple years on the street, and then I came back. Anyway, I was around family, because now I'm living in a home, right? And I'm interacting with family. They were around, and so I started to come out with in a bigger way that first year and a half off the street. Because I was putting my words to pictures, and so there was more visibility. So my family's reading it, and I remember a couple of them telling me in a conversation that this ain't coming from you. Now, these were detractors, antagonists. These were my trigger people. This wasn't like, hey, that wasn't, I don't know what that was. I don't know. I don't think it was a compliment. In fact, it was, they didn't want to give me any credit for it. And like, you know what I mean? But yeah, so for people to notice something like that in another person, be it me or you or anybody else, I think further substantiates what you said. I almost missed that when you said it. But there's a great deal of importance to what you said, that it's not me.
That's that subtlety. That's that subtlety you mentioned earlier. And actually, since my father passed away, I have realized that, for example, one of the people that greeted him on the other side, because I get visions every night. And one of the people that greeted him on the other side was a cousin of mine that died a few years ago. And in the vision that I got, I was able to see through my father's eyes and see this cousin come and greet him on the other side of the veil. And I shared that message with his mom, and she was so moved. I'm still getting messages from her like multiple times a week. I've gotten a few messages from her now, from this cousin of mine. And yeah, so I really have been sharing more and more. It's like that part of me that gets the messages, and that part of me that's so interested in this stuff it's finally revealing herself.
Yeah,
I'm less nervous. Before I used to be uncomfortable about it because of like the skeptics of life. And now I don't care.
Well, Morgan's mentioned that to me a few times in the last few weeks, which is kind of an opening up, even though we're very connected and very close, that she's almost embarrassed by what she's known and for how long she's known it, which sounds very similar to what you're saying. And I know you're saying it differently, but I mean, if that's there, I can see where there'd be the hesitation to step forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or even if you were given the domain 10 whatever years ago, I mean, it's just, when you get right down to it, it's just time. And I think a big part of what the universal energy is, I don't want to say requiring, but is co-creating with us, is for the feminine to stand up and be heard in a balanced way, in an unobstructed way. And because of the way this went down, that's probably 90% of the time going to be a female incarnation, at least in the early days. Like, we need to hear it for all of us. We've watched some fantastic incarnated males come on this show in the last few weeks that part of them is stepping up.
Mm-hmm.
That suppressed feminine,
Yeah,
So,
and I haven't really given any much thought if it's the suppressed feminine within me, but I definitely feel like there's also that like wounded child aspect that maybe was not wanting to experience shame from having these messages, from receiving messages and being ridiculed, or for me it feels like some of that too, definitely. And that's why when I connect with going on these kind of wild bike rides, it makes me feel like I'm, probably nurturing the part of me that was nervous for those messages, to expose myself that way.
Yeah, that's I just saw a troll, whatever. We don't get too many, but I don't like looking at it. Yeah, that's good. This is good stuff, because this is what's happening. Like the we don't get caught up in the story, but in the story, in the present story, in the evolving story, in the story that is unencumbered, that's not weighed down from the past or fixated on the future, and out of a presence, within themselves. There's so much gold in there.
Yeah.
Like with everything you're talking about on a personal level, but there's a collective truth thread, through it and I think that's how we're exchanging information now. Is being real. And I know that's
I've never been more real in my life.
right.
And not only have I feel like I've never been more real, but I also feel like I've never had access to the real me before. I feel like I'm gaining access because of all the layers of myself that I've been peeling away.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I have it over here. I saw this thing today, and this is it. And it's the authentic self is the soul made visible. Now, I've seen this for 2-3 years, and I have it in my files, and I just happened to run across it today. And, there's no coincidences, right? And I started thinking about it. I thought, just like the words twin flame and other words have been contorted. They've been, you know what I mean? Authenticity's kind of been, I'm authentic. It doesn't have the bite that it did. And so when I look at this and I think to myself, that's what's happening. The universal energy, the ascension is, and it doesn't matter if you're a rock, a bird, an animal, a human, it doesn't matter, that there's a force that is, by force or flow, depending on who we're talking about, is getting that from us one way or the other. Like, to get to purity, all the components have to be pure. You can't have 99% of them or 80% of them, not within yourself, not within the collective. but to me, that's one of the other things that I really feel that I'm able to accept more. Like really at this point, I'm if I'm not 100%, I'm damn close. You know, and when I say that, I mean like do doubts come in, do whatever, and that is that there is something occurring here that won't be stopped.
Mm-hmm.
It will not be stopped, and everything will be brought into balance. And what an incredible place to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out, right? Now, the physical and that non-physical. There's going to be a day when it all comes together. And that's going to be trippy because we will have, at least in part, some physicality. That's pretty powerful, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because every time, for me anyway, every time I integrate polarities, truly do it, because you can't BS yourself. You can't BS the universe. Your whole body feels it when something happens. But every time that happens, almost right away, I'm shown again, there's another one to go get
Oh yeah.
with a bigger prize. And with that next one comes more skill, more abilities, more memory, more higher sensitivity. You know, it's fascinating, and it is not. I had this old saying back in the day: the universe is never in a rush, and it's always on time. It just won't speed up for no one. you know,
Yeah.
it won't.
Sometimes I feel like I need to be in a rush to do certain things. I mean, even regarding this stuff. And it seems to me now that I'm getting pretty darn clear messages, it's like, oh, okay, things must have unfolded exactly at the right time.
Yeah. Are you noticing that? I'm noticing that as I go, I guess I'm more present. I mean, we all must be a little bit more present or a lot more present. But I'm noticing that as I go about my day, everything is shown to me and I can see the connection clearer and clearer. You know what I mean? It's like I'm everything's put in front of me and the association from the previous event and the association to the next event or the next image or the next intuitive or whatever is easier and easier to see. Like the story I'm starting to really understand and walk and live and breathe in.
You like the connectivity, how it connects to everything is like revealing itself.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not as much of a, like pin the tail on the donkey thing where you're like, and again, I think a lot of that has to do with the self-doubt. Because the things that this is why I'm looking forward to talking to David Icke in January. Because this is a person, and it could be anybody, it could be you, because my point is the story's the same. So here's an example of somebody who got a download and then followed the guidance and then was ridiculed, was all that stuff, yet stayed the course. Now here's a whole community. And how many are there? How many Soulologies are there around the world? There's a boatload of people out there that have the same story, the same template of in regard to their journey, our journeys, that he does. So, I think before there wasn't a whole lot of company. Now there's a lot more company, both in individual numbers and also in the energetic field. Like it's a powerful thing. Like
tons. I know even my guides were actually about 3 weeks to a month before my dad died. They recommended I put an ad in meetup.com for just to offer a class on automatic writing, a free class. And I'm not always good with following, like they prompt me for lots of different things, but I don't always follow it. there's that stubborn part of me that holds back, but I did. I went, and I'm so thrilled that I did, because now I have all these friends locally that are into like-minded stuff.
Wow.
And it's great. It actually feels really also enlivening.
Wow.
But it's showing me how many people really are having experiences that are showing them there's so much more to life, and they're wanting to develop.
That's a powerful thing too, because that's another thing that. So I remember end of last year, and we're talking the Francos and the Morgans and some of those people like that get this intel. And I remember that group of like people saying this year, one of the things that will happen in 2020 will be what we do online will start to occur in person. Right? We experienced it in Sedona, and it was mind blowing. Took me 30 days to really land after we got back. But like what you're talking about, that's a powerful thing, because there's something about soul coordinates being in the same place, even if you don't say anything, just like January. Like there's something about, the night we sat around the table at the bar and had drinks and talked, and there wasn't a whole lot of woo-woo stuff. It was just pure, right? It was just people being real, being themselves, and there's something about that that's very expansive. And I guess that's another byproduct of the lockdowns. Even though there's certain limitations, uh, people are getting resourceful. They're dipping into the creativity, the well of, yeah.
And what I've noticed, obviously since lockdown, I feel like people are sort of yearning for more contact.
Yeah.
And from the very first meeting, it was like, oh my gosh, I can talk to people, and I can talk about things that I want to be talking about, and actually be in person. That's what we've been doing, is in person. And it just feels amazing.
Yeah.
In a way, it feels like maybe all the rest of the years of my life and everybody else's life, we've taken it for granted.
Yeah. 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 And it's hard. And it's also another thing too. And this goes for me. I say most of what I'm saying to myself first, even if it doesn't sound like it. But, um, with these epiphanies and revelations, it's still, even though our egoic is being subordinated, and is not driving the car, it still jumps into the driver's seat now and then. And I guess what I'm trying to say, there's a bit of a challenge with this higher code and epiphanies and revelations, because we want to think we're special. It could be something like that, like, oh my God, I can do this. But another part of it is the self judgment, because that's a huge program. So, like, in other words, wow, I just realized this after all these years. I wasted all this time. That kind of negative egoic talk. So there's a lot to contend with, and for all of us, and I think we've done a hell of a job.
There's really a lot to, yeah, I imagine this year my mom calls that the shitty committee. The negative
the shitty committee.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of, with all this introspection we've had all this time for, there's probably a lot of a shitty committee coming out.
Yeah, true that. Yeah. Yeah, but I really feel like we've done, and most of those people like the Francos and such that have come on the show, and I remember 2035 and 2040 and 2050, and we won't see it in our lifetime, and that well, it's not linear, but that timeline has accelerated and accelerated and accelerated to where now we're looking at things. People are talking in terms of 1, 2, 3 years, to have a major evidence, or in our physical experience of what we've been digging for all this time. I still think that teleporting is a belief system removed away. bilocating and really, and I'm talking not just your typical remote viewing stuff. I'm talking about, hey, Michele, Morgan and I'll be over at your house for dinner tonight. We'll bring the wine, and physically, boom. We're just one belief system away at a time.
I totally agree with that. In fact, earlier in the call, I was saying that we're the technology. I feel like all we have to do is peel away those layers. And the more layers we peel away, then we reveal the part of us that has access to all of that, and the part of us that actually knows how to do it. But that's all. It kind of goes back with that idea we've talked about quite a bit in this call, which is, or in this video, is the idea of denial. So the more comfortable we get with expressing ourselves, not just verbally, but expressing who we are, I think the closer we get to be able to have access to that.
Yeah, and I think too, it's because I've tried to like explain this or write this before, where there's something about going through life that you can kind of measure. I try to figure out how do you stay in the lane, and it has to do with relaxation. Like, and I mean that in energetics and physical and the whole 9 yards. There's something about grooving when you're in a relaxed state. And it's, and I forgot what you were just talking about. You were talking about, you said something about, you said earlier, the tech part of it, right?
Yeah, we're the technology.
Yeah. So, okay, I got it. So there's something to, somebody might want to use the term fearless, right? I've used that a lot in the last 9 years, but what I'm talking about is something different. Like, and the COVID is like the perfect catalyst, because we've all been at this point in our lives at some point or another, if not several, where we go, you know what? What's the difference? Like, hey, shoot me, kill me, stab me, whatever. Like, in other words, it's like a surrender, but it's also like a resignation, like a sovereignty, like I don't know, like you're not giving up, but you're just going, bring it on. Like, okay, it's inevitable. So there's something about that really clicks to me. When you just say, and in other words, I've had enough. I've had enough of being owned by this conception or this energy or this belief system or whatever. I've had enough.
Yeah, and if you surrender to it, it can kind of carry you away. It can carry you in a direction where you actually want to go too. And it carries you sometimes down dark paths also, but even down the dark paths, that reveals things about you. And then you have the opportunity to, close down that program.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I mean, if we think about the patterns that we've had, like, for instance, I don't know, I have to pull something out of my, okay. Let's say the church. I'm not picking on any, I'm just using this as an example. I remember years ago when it would have been, I think in the 90s, when the first big wave of child molestation reports came out of the Catholic Church. And my dad was going to Catholic church. And I remember coming into town and I was talking to him, and he was like, this happened and this happened and that happened. But at the end of the day, there was some rationalization, some,
Wow.
you know what I mean? There was some irrationalization. Let's put it that way. Yeah. My point is the people, I'm not picking on him either, but we kept going back to the church. Like, we kept going back to the church.
I believe it's true.
Well, yeah, cognitive dissonance. But I mean, like what I'm trying to say is it was so ingrained in us to continue to give our power up, whether it be the church, the government, whatever, our relationship, or a kid, I mean, there's all parents, there's all different possibilities, but that's how deep that stuff was, to actually get the message front and center in your face in the physical form and still go back into cognitive dissonance, where now Now, to me, it's different. Now that universal energy is like screaming in your ear, like, hey, you probably don't want to do that much longer. Gives you a little tap, and then eventually pops you upside the head when you don't listen. It's very much for me in here. Before it was more of the physical seemed to be more prominent.
And you said a moment ago about personal power. I think that there's a lot to it. I think that, we've been nervous that might not be the right word, but uncomfortable. Because of the fact that we have so many years giving the church our power, giving our husband our power, giving our family our power, whatever it is, and not keeping our power for ourselves. So it's like we've been misusing it, and it takes a lot. It takes perhaps something like COVID or 2020 to undo a lot of that. At the very least, to make it that we want to look at it, because that's kind of an ugly demon,
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. And I think that's what's happening. I think what's going to happen is it's people are just going to be like, nah, hey, if I'm going to go, I'm going to go, kind of thing. Like, if I could, if that's the example we're using, I could get that, and I could go down and transition, but I could walk across the street and be old saying, get hit by a bus. I mean, it's like we're meant to live. That to me is, if somebody asks me what spirituality, what's one, to me, it's just this. I'm here. Okay. And the more time I'm here that I'm, off on this wild goose chase, the less of the experience that I'm actually enjoying. And going back to the whole thing with the kid, being the kid and the big kid and the Peter Pan and you riding your bike. I know it sounds crazy, man, but I would go so far to say that if you go out and do that to that level of of presence, and the singing and the wheelies, and that one day you're going to be out there riding, and all of a sudden you're going to go right through a portal.
I wouldn't be surprised. It feels so good. It's like, I'm not kidding you. It's made it to, it's gotten to the point now where I feel like colors are more vibrant.
Yeah.
Perhaps that has to do with other things too, because I work on myself a lot.
Yeah.
And there goes my dog. But, I really feel like colors are more vibrant. The sunsets are more beautiful. Music is more beautiful. I find magic all around me now on a daily basis. And I think probably the majority, the biggest thing probably that I can attribute to is two things: that, tapping in with that inner child that of course is part of Michele, but also, my willingness to receive messages when now I'm no longer in denial, my willingness to materialize and ground these revelations or messages that I get, so that I can track it, so that I can work on myself, so that I can share a message with someone.
Yeah. And most of all, it enhances the individual. That's why, like with the network, I see we're going to have 4 channels to start. And one is artistic expressions, what I would call artistic expressions. Another one of those things that you can't explain, right? You can't properly define, but what it is to capture the energy of what you're talking about. So to capture the energy in a form that's visual, audio, of you receiving what you receive and converting it, right, to share. So it could be light language. It could be someone showing automatic. It could be someone sharing their diary in a narrative form. It could be music, but that's what I'm seeing. It's like this continuous play of that inspiration and connection and communion that's then goes through, the alchemic of the human in a more and more alignment of the heart and is expressed and shared, because I think that's, say 20 years down the road when there's, 70,000 channels. I just think big, right? When there's 144,000 channels on that, the biggest one will be that one.
I love that. I love that idea.
That's what you're doing. And that's what so many other people are doing. And that's what so many people have done that's gotten us here. I don't know why my heart's fluttering. This is good times. Good times. Powerful month.
Supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I mean, oh my gosh, it's not just that things appear more beautiful, but that I feel inside so much more filled with love.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been asking Morgan, but I've been asking myself too. She actually started it. She just doesn't know it. Do you know how amazing you are? Now, I don't say that to myself or to her or to anybody else to, like in the old way. This is just more of like, if I say it to myself, do you know how amazing you are? And I'll go, whoa, wait a minute. Like you were saying earlier, like you could see where you've been and where you are now. There's so many things that come into that. If you ask the question and don't seek anything, it just all piles in on you. And so I did it a few nights ago, and I was taking a drive when I do my thinking or whatever. And I came out of it and I was like, okay, it's all about living, right? I want to be an accomplished author. I'm seeing 20 plus books. I'll do this later in life because I know I'm going to be around 80, 90, 100, whatever that is. I'm going to be, an accomplished spoken word artist. And I started naming these things, and it wasn't like pie in the sky. And it was just like, what do you really want to do? Right? What do you really want to do while you're here? And that's where it came from.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Yeah. I can still relate to that because I feel like all my life, it's like I never really knew what to do except work or travel. But I feel like now I feel like I'm starting to discover what my passions are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what I mean is like this kind of stuff. That's where my passions are.
Yeah. We're getting there. We're all getting there. You look absolutely beautiful. You're.
And by the way, my son comes to me and he tells me that I'm amazing. We have just this amazing relationship where we just like share these, I'll get my messages and I share them with him, and he comes to me and gives me his messages, and we have this amazing.
Yeah, y'all definitely have something going on. It's joined at the hip. No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot that's gone on since we met in January. I'll tell you that. So, is there now, before we get out of here, are you sharing this stuff? Where can people find you? Is there anything you want to tell the audience about that you do or you offer or anything?
Well, I do have a website that's, halfway there. It's collectiveconsciousness.com. And I also have a YouTube channel. I haven't made a single video since before my dad died, so like a couple months. And it's really new. I think it's collectiveconsciousness.com, or just Collective Consciousness is the name of the YouTube channel also. That's it for now. I think I'm going to set up a private YouTube channel, or not YouTube, a private Facebook channel, just for the meetup group that I started. And, I'd be thrilled. It's actually, I already have a YouTube, Facebook page for Collective Consciousness, but I'm thinking about making a private one where we can interact back and forth and we could share messages that way too.
Yeah.
I haven't it hasn't launched yet, but
yeah, that's a good idea. I was looking at something like that last night for the website. I'm feeling a little lightheaded. I'm gonna have to go lay down.
Yeah, and I want to say one last thing. I get messages in Spanish too. I'm bilingual, so that's another thing that I'm really excited about. Is
you're bilingual?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm half Puerto Rican, and so I was surprised one day when I just started receiving messages, and I'm 5 minutes into the recording, and it's in Spanish, and the recording went on for 50 minutes. So I'm excited because I feel like there's,
that's cool.
All of that.
We're going to roll out a Spanish speaking program in January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I'll get with the sister, see if we can hook you guys up.
Great.
All right, man. I'm getting lightheaded. I don't know what it is. Something's going on today. It's been like this for most of the day. A lot of energy. I don't know. Anyway, we'll be back in an hour and 45 minutes with the fourth and final show of the day. Lady's name is God, I'm so bad.
Oh, you know what? One last thing I want to say real quick. I'll put in the comments below the video. I'll share the steps that I shared with my group, how I do automatic writing, in case anybody's
Absolutely. That'd be very good. Very cool. Catherine Kinney, 7 o'clock Eastern. And for anybody who's in the Tampa, Clearwater area, this is where Michele and her beautiful family is. I would imagine she's going to continue to expand on these local gatherings. And there's a lot of friends over there, Jeremy McDonald. Oh my God, my mind's blank. But, we've a lot of friends. There's a strong community in that area. So if you're in the Tampa area, there's plenty of people that I've come to know through the Soldier Network. And if you want to meet with someone locally, hit me up or hit Michele up and we'll connect you. All right. Thank you. Tell your husband hello. Tell your son hello and give your dogs a hug and kiss for me.
Okay. Take care.
Peace out. Thank you.